Respected Dharma Masters, fellow practitioners, and guests. Today, we see an increasing number of people around the world starting to practice Buddhism, but many do not really understand what it is, and thus cannot truly benefit from it. Buddhism is a most virtuous and perfect education directed by Buddha Shakyamuni for all sentient beings throughout the universe. It covers a boundless range of phenomena and principles and is much broader than what is currently studied in universities. It is an education of the wisdom and understanding of life and the universe, and it is not a religion. How can we tell that Buddhism is an education? Today, the terms student and teacher are only used in school. We call Buddha Shakyamuni our original teacher. In the sutras, those who listened to him were called students, which is what we call ourselves today. This teacher-student relationship is only found in education. Another reason that Buddhism is an education is also to be found in the sutras, in which we learn that the students would often ask questions of Buddha Shakyamuni. He would then often reply in turn with another question to try to help them realize the answer for themselves. If the students did not thoroughly understand, or more likely thought we would not understand, they would ask for further clarification. This is essentially a classroom discussion. Please understand, Buddha Shakyamuni simply taught. He neither conducted ceremonies nor rites. Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings can help us to understand why we live as we do and how we can change, how we can uncover our wisdom. But this is not the worldly wisdom that we often think of today. Rather, it is the ability to perfectly comprehend the reality of life and the universe. One who has perceived this wisdom is called a Buddha, which means wisdom and enlightenment. Buddha Shakyamuni told us that all sentient beings possess this wisdom, so all beings are equal. But although we are equal in origin, presently we cannot see this because everyone's abilities and wisdom differ. In our society, there are those who are intelligent, those who are not, those who have great abilities, those who have less. This is due to our varying degrees of delusion. Our innate wisdom and abilities are thus temporarily lost. However, if we can break through this delusion, then we will be able to recover these abilities. We often read in the sutras, which are recorded teachings of the Buddhas, that Buddhas do not directly help sentient beings. They can only assist from the side by explaining how we delude ourselves. After realizing this, it is entirely up to us to diligently put his teachings into practice so that we may also become Buddhas. Accomplishing this is attainable by all sentient beings. However, a teacher can only educate us about the principles, tell us of his or her experiences, and suggest various methods for our practice and attainment. The rest ultimately depends upon us. We are the ones who need to be enthusiastic and diligent in order to attain achievement. Once we comprehend that Buddhism is an education, we will then see why in learning centers where this is understood, we do not regard the images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as gods to be worshipped. Practitioners make offerings to these images for two reasons. First, we do so to remember and to repay our debt of gratitude to Buddha Shakyamuni for having given us the teachings. The second reason we make offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is to follow the examples of the virtuous. Buddha Shakyamuni was an ordinary person. He was just like us. What is there to stop us from achieving the same enlightenment that he was able to attain? Therefore, his images serve to remind us every moment to diligently advance towards this goal. The Buddha, Bodhisattva images are not to be regarded as gods or objects of superstition. The images of the Buddhas, who are perfectly enlightened beings, and the Bodhisattvas, who are enlightened sentient beings, have many appearances. This has often led to the misconception that not only is Buddhism a religion, but one that worships many gods as well. These perfectly enlightened beings and enlightened sentient beings represent infinite wisdom and abilities that cannot be represented by merely one name or one image. The names of the perfectly enlightened beings represent these complete, innate, virtuous abilities already within our original nature. The names of the enlightened sentient beings represent cultivation of different virtues. We said earlier that Buddhism is not a religion. Why then is it not a philosophy, an academic study? Philosophy is just one course that is offered at a college or university. Buddhism is an entire university in itself. It covers many areas of learning, not just one. It teaches everything throughout the universe in the past, present, and future. In regards to time, it encompasses all time. In regards to space, it encompasses everything from our daily living environment to the entire universe. We need a profound, intuitive wisdom to understand the reality of life and the universe. But we are deluded because we continue to view everything as two, everything in conflict with each other, not knowing that in reality, everything is not two, but one. This delusion of viewing things as different, as being in conflict, is why we are leading lives of suffering and why the 6 realms of reincarnation exist. The wisdom and virtuous abilities in our original self-nature have yet to be uncovered. So our ways of interacting with other people and with circumstances are as yet incorrect. The erroneous acts due to our incorrect viewpoints and ways of interaction have resulted in the suffering of the 6 realms of heavens, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hells. The goal of the Buddha's teaching is to help us break through our misconceptions, to be awakened, to escape this suffering, and to attain happiness. What is it that we seek? Perfect, complete enlightenment. There are 3 stages of enlightenment. First is proper enlightenment. In our world, there are some very intelligent, very wise people who have attained higher realization than the vast majority of people have. However, although they have reached a certain level of realization, the Buddhas would not recognize their knowledge as the proper enlightenment because they have not yet severed their afflictions, the conditions that cause pain, distress, and suffering. These individuals still dwell on the rights and wrongs of others, on greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance. They still harbor wandering and discriminatory thoughts. They still have attachments. In other words, their minds are not pure. Without the pure mind, the mind without discrimination or attachments, no matter how high the level of enlightenment we reach, it is still not the proper enlightenment. In Buddhism, the standard for proper enlightenment is the pure mind from which wisdom arises. It is the wish of all Buddhas that we attain this state. This is the level of arhats. Arhats do not have illusory or misleading thoughts and views. They do not dwell on thoughts of right or wrong, do not have greed, anger, ignorance, or arrogance. Only with this proper enlightenment can we obtain true happiness and transcend the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, death, hardships, the inability to have what we want, separation from those we love, and being in the presence of those we dislike or even hate. Practicing Buddhism is to accord with the teachings and to understand the root cause of our problems. Thus, to rid ourselves of wandering, discriminatory thoughts and attachments. We then uncover our pure mind, which in turn gives rise to wisdom, which is proper enlightenment. Therefore, perfectly enlightened beings and enlightened sentient beings would not recognize worldly wisdom, as it lacks the pure mind, proper enlightenment. Upon attaining this proper enlightenment, we will have the ability to transcend the 6 realms of reincarnation. Whether talking about worldly education or the Buddha's education, it is essential to understand the method. To understand, we need to delve deeply into just one teaching, one method, follow one teacher. When we wish to truly learn effectively, we need to follow one teacher, follow one path. This will ensure a smooth journey. When following 2 teachers with 2 different paths, we are bound to become confused as to which path to take. Following 3 teachers, we find ourselves at a T-stop, not knowing which of the 3 directions to move. And following 4 teachers, 4 methods, we are stopped at a crossroads, unable to proceed any further. Today, people like to learn a lot. But this is why they often fail to attain good results. The problem lies with being stuck at those crossroads, confused as to which direction to move in. we need to follow one teacher, one method to succeed and attain achievement in our practice and cultivation. What is this achievement? It is attaining purity of mind. Upon achieving some degree of purity of mind, we will have fewer afflictions, and thus an increase in true wisdom, enabling us to solve the problems of this world and beyond. There really is no way to solve these problems without this wisdom. Therefore, it is essential in leading happy and fulfilling lives, and on a much broader scale in helping us to solve the problems that society and our world are currently facing. We need to break free of our attachments to attain this wisdom, for without it, we could misinterpret the meaning of the sutras. If we are able to do away with the mind of selfishness, then true benefits will be ours. With proper enlightenment, only when we have no ego attachment, no selfishness, will we be able to differentiate true from false, beneficial from harmful, proper from deviated. Without breaking through our own delusions, we will have none of these abilities. One level above proper enlightenment is equal and proper enlightenment. Equal means equal to the Buddhas, but not yet achieving Buddhahood. This is the level of a bodhisattva. Equal and proper enlightenment requires us to break through 1 degree of delusion, of ignorance, to attain 1 degree of Dharma body, the original true body. At that point, the way we view life and the world around us is very close to that of the Buddhas. And after breaking through the very last degree of ignorance, perfecting wisdom and enlightenment, we will achieve the 3rd level, that is perfect, complete enlightenment. From the intrinsic nature of Buddhism, we realize that the purpose of our practice is to seek wisdom. Different methods are practiced by different people, but the results or the level of the state of mind are the same. Therefore, to criticize other schools would be to slander both the Buddha and his teachings. For all these methods were passed down to us from him. Choosing any one of these proper methods will enable the practitioner to attain the goal. Understanding this, how can we possibly say that one is better than another? Among all these different methods, we just need to decide which one is suitable for us to practice. First, it needs to be suitable, because if we chose a method that was beyond us and thus difficult to practice, we would not easily succeed. Second, it needs to be appropriate and convenient for our manner of living. And third, it needs to be compatible with modern society, because we cannot separate ourselves from other people or from the world. But regardless of which method is chosen, it is essential to be rid of egoism and attachments in order to attain the benefits, or else all of our efforts will have been in vain. Once we clearly understand the Buddha's teachings, we will understand and view the sutras very differently. These sutras are a vast collection of over 160 volumes. To obtain the benefits from this vast collection, it is necessary for us to understand what it says, to understand its essence, which is the true reality of all phenomena, the true reality of life and the universe. Life refers to ourselves. Universe refers to our living environment. It would be incorrect to treat the teachings as an abstract learning that had really nothing to do with us, nothing to do with how we act in our daily lives. Every word in the sutra closely relates to our daily living. Buddhism teaches us to live in harmony with the true reality of life and the universe. In other words, we live perfect, wonderful lives similar to those of perfectly enlightened beings and enlightened sentient beings. This is true, ultimate, and the perfect Mahayana teaching. To practice Buddhism, we start by being filial and respectful towards parents, teachers, and elders, having the great, compassionate mind, nurturing our thinking and thus our wisdom, and broadening our minds so that we care for all sentient beings. Although in sequence, these can be practiced simultaneously, as each encompasses the others. For example, being filial includes compassion and wisdom. Nurturing wisdom includes filial piety and logic. Once we have a general understanding of the teachings, how do we apply them in our daily lives? First, we need to know what each Buddha and Bodhisattva represent. If we do not, Buddhism will be reduced to mere superstition. All Buddhist sutras contain these values, characteristics, and ways of practice. Therefore, learning only one sutra is sufficient. However, we need to understand and apply the teachings effectively in everything we do. We will better understand the teachings when we enter a way place where the fact that Buddhism is an education is understood. First, we will see a container of water on the Buddha table. The clear water symbolizes the principle that our minds need to be as pure as the water, to be void of greed, anger, and ignorance. It is calm, without a single ripple, indicating that we relate to other people and situations with a serene, non-discriminatory mind of equality. Also, it is pure and calm, reflecting clearly and thoroughly, just as we would see everything around us in a mirror. Next, we will see offerings of flowers. These symbolize the cause, as the blossoms result in the bearing of fruit, which we will also often see on the table. Together, the flowers and the fruit remind us that there are consequences to our every thought, word, and deed. Lamps and candles symbolize wisdom and brightness, illuminating the darkness of ignorance, of delusion. The images of lotuses symbolize transcending the 10 realms of existence. First, it rises through the mud at the bottom of the pond, which symbolizes the 6 realms of birth and death. Next, the lotus flower rises through the water, which symbolizes the 4 sage realms. Finally, the lotus flower completely breaks through the surface of the water, completely transcending all 10 realms, reaching the one true Dharma realm, the stage of ultimate enlightenment. Thus, the lotus flower teaches us that although we do live in this world, we should not be polluted by our surroundings. The lotus flower above the water symbolizes that one day all beings, from those in the hell realms to those who are bodhisattvas, will all have perfect wisdom, perfect compassion. The Buddha realm exceeds the 10 realms, and to become a Buddha is the ultimate goal of our teaching. So when we see the lotus flower, we are reminded to practice the teachings as well as to transcend the 10 realms of existence. Usually, in the main hall of that way place, there are statues of one Buddha, and on either side of him 2 bodhisattvas. The Buddha represents our self-nature, our original nature. The bodhisattvas represent the virtuous abilities that are within the self-nature, the qualities of understanding and practice. If the Buddha in the middle is Buddha Shakyamuni, then the 2 figures on either side of him will be Manjusri Bodhisattva and Universal Worthy Bodhisattva. They represent wisdom and application, respectively. Thus, understanding and practice are combined into one. If the hall has the 3 sages of the Western Pure Land, then the Buddha in the middle will be Buddha Amitabha, with great strength Bodhisattva and great compassion Bodhisattva on either side. They represent great wisdom and great compassion, symbolizing infinite wisdom, infinite abilities. So again, we see by everything that we look at when we enter a way place that Buddhism is an education. There are also profound teachings within the names of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The name Buddha Shakyamuni tells us the basic principles of his education. Shakya means humanity and kindness. Muni means purity of mind. The teachings of these values is advocated because people in our world lack these qualities. Lacking compassion and kindness, we are still attached to our ego, are still very selfish. Sentient beings lack purity of mind and dwell constantly in greed, anger, and ignorance. Any bodhisattva who becomes a Buddha in this world will be called Shakyamuni, to teach us the remedy for our problems. Once the representations of the Buddha and Buddha Bodhisattva images are intuitively understood just by our looking at them, then we will perfectly comprehend the Buddha's teachings. The main principle of our practice is awakening proper thoughts and purity. An initial step in our learning and practice is taking refuge in the Triple Jewels. After we generate the heart to take refuge by accepting, learning, and practicing Buddhism, we request a Dharma master to pass on the teachings, to pass on the principles, the goal of practice in Buddhism. The Triple Jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. When we take refuge in the Buddha, we are returning from our deluded state of mind and relying upon an awakened mind. When we take refuge in the Dharma, we are returning from incorrect views and relying upon proper views and understanding. When we take refuge in the Sangha, we are returning from pollution and disharmony and relying upon purity of mind and the 6 principles of harmony. These 6 principles are to help us get along harmoniously with others. Not only are these applicable within a Buddhist community, but also in any organization, group, family, anytime people gather together. The first principle is to share the same goals and views. Everyone in this group shares similar viewpoints, providing the foundation for living in harmony. If everyone has different views and thoughts, then conflicts would become unavoidable, making the group discordant and worse. The second of the principles of harmony is to abide by the same precepts and rules. There are both broad and narrow meanings within the word precepts. The narrower meaning includes upholding the 5 or 10 layperson precepts, the monk or nun precepts, the bodhisattva precepts, as well as following the Buddha's teachings. In a broader sense, abiding by the precepts includes abiding by accepted, proper codes of behavior, customs, rules, laws of wherever we are throughout the world. Next, we practice the third principle of living and practicing together harmoniously. This naturally leads to the fourth principle of according with others. When living together and sharing a common consensus, a group would naturally not have any conflicts. To practice with the same goal and to achieve improvement daily ensures that the community will meet the fifth principle, that is, experiencing the joy and inner peace from practicing the teachings. And finally, the sixth principle is to share benefits harmoniously. This refers to our daily living necessities. We really do not need a great deal to live. Living by the six principles of harmony will help us to get along better with others. When with others, whether or not they follow the six principles, We are to follow them. So we need to accord with the spirit of these principles to truly follow the teachings. Another important guideline for our practice is the three learnings of abiding by the precepts, deep concentration, and wisdom. These summarize all the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni and of all Buddhas throughout the universe. The teachings of the precepts place most emphasis on rules and laws that we need to follow to successfully interact with others and circumstances. This will enable the members of society to enjoy a wonderful and fulfilling life. Worlds absent of law and order are worlds of chaos. Although we may possess much good fortune and great wealth, we may still be unhappy, living in fear and insecurity if we have discarded law and order. The precepts thoroughly explain the principles, methods, and state of mind we need to bring about a lawful society in the world. The three learnings clearly explain this concept. We practice self-discipline to attain deep concentration. Then we practice deep concentration to in turn attain wisdom. Presently, we are in a state of delusion. This occurs when our minds and hearts are not still. An enlightened mind and heart remain calm. When our six senses encounter the environment, our minds and hearts are moved. They cannot remain still, and thus they give rise to constant wandering thoughts. The Buddha taught us numerous methods of practice to enable us to remain unaffected in all situations, not giving rise to any wandering, discriminatory thoughts or attachments, thus recovering our original abilities. Correcting our erroneous thoughts, speech, and behavior is cultivation in our daily lives. We accomplish these through self-discipline and concentration. For the pure mind, self-discipline is the external standard. Deep concentration is the internal standard. While the external standard is important, much more important is the internal, because it helps us to achieve our goal to attain wisdom. With self-discipline, we attain the concentration that ultimately gives rise to wisdom. Whether we practice Buddha recitation, sutra recitation, mantra chanting, or chanting a Buddha's name, if we do not follow the guidelines, we cannot attain purity of mind. With 1 degree of purity of mind, we attain 1 degree of wisdom. Practicing accordingly, with the teachings while maintaining and protecting our purity of mind to give rise to wisdom is crucial to our lives today. The 6 Paramitas are next in our practice, and they are the primary guidelines for bodhisattvas. Each paramita encompasses our whole way of living. For example, the first of the 6 paramitas is giving. Most people think of giving simply as donating money, but this is only one of the infinite methods of giving. On appearance, giving is sacrificing oneself to give to others. However, from its intrinsic nature, giving is letting go. We can practice giving of our physical wealth or our physical strength. Of our wealth or physical strength. For example, without proper understanding, when we do the same work every day, we begin to feel that these chores are very repetitive and boring. If, however, we could understand that cultivating the bodhisattva way by practicing the 6 paramitas, that we would be practicing giving in this way. This understanding will help us to replace feelings of resentment with feelings of joy. Changing our perception of doing the same chores with a giving, non-attaching heart is practicing the paramita of giving. Not only do we serve those we live or work with, but we also serve as role models for many others, and in this way, not just a few benefit, but all benefit. Being a role model for others is practicing the bodhisattva way in guiding sentient beings. The paramita of giving can be expanded to include the infinite universe. Giving is comprised of 3 categories: wealth, teaching, and fearlessness. The giving of wealth includes both internal and external wealth. Internal wealth involves all of our mental and physical labors that benefit others. External wealth is the giving of all other things, money, food, etc. As a result of giving wealth, we gain wealth. The giving of teaching is the willingness to instruct others while not selfishly holding back any information. It is to do our very best in educating willing students. As a result, we gain intelligence and wisdom. The giving of fearlessness includes soothing away the fears of others and fostering a feeling of security. As a result, we gain health and long life. Most people wish for happiness, wealth, intelligence and wisdom, long life and health. The law of cause and effect explains that where there is a good cause, there will be a good result. However, we do not receive the reward without first planting the good seed. By practicing all three kinds of giving, we perfectly attain all of these rewards. After careful observation, we will see that very few people have everything they want. Some have wisdom, others have good fortune. They planted different seeds. Using Buddhist principles to observe society enables us to know how to correct ourselves in the future. Very honestly, true wisdom is more important than good fortune. Wealth is good fortune, but properly using and allocating wealth requires wisdom. For without it, possessing wealth may lead us to create infinite negative karma from evil deeds while thinking we are doing good. Without wisdom, we are unable to distinguish true from false, beneficial from harmful. Then, what may appear to have been good can end up turning out to have been bad. And sometimes, what may have initially appeared to be bad may actually turn out to have been good after all. Throughout all this, we are unaware of having done anything wrong. So we need insight to understand the consequences to everything we do. The second paramita is abiding by the precepts or self-discipline. The third paramita is patience. We need patience in everything we do. Without it, we cannot attain anything worthwhile. The fourth paramita is diligence, seen as focused daily improvement, not trying to advance in many different directions at the same time. Advancing with diligence, we attain concentration, the ability to remain unmoved, uninfluenced by external conditions. Thus, we achieve the fifth paramita of deep concentration when we are unmoved by all phenomena. It is seeing everything clearly, and it is having the intuitive wisdom that is the sixth paramita. Today, we do not exist in wisdom, but in a state of delusion, not yet having understood that we really are not individuals, but are just one very small part of a very large whole. Our mistaken viewpoints have led to being immersed in selfish thoughts. We do not understand that we need to replace these thoughts with thoughts of benefiting others. Our selfishness, wandering thoughts, attachments have hidden the truth from us. Buddha Shakyamuni taught us how to break through these obstacles to attain awakening, to attain perfect wisdom and compassion, to end unhappiness, and to find genuine, lasting joy serenity, and peace for all beings.